Hi everyone, Shirtlad here. The year is 122 of the Universal Century. Exactly 2 years passed since the ghost of Zeon, specifically the Oldsmobile army, hailing from Mars, had taken up arms against the Earth Federation. After a series of fierce battles, Lieutenant Death Stallion and his compatriots ultimately brought ruin to the Olympus Mons base of the Oldsmobile forces. However, as dust settled and Zeon remnants managed to muster a sufficient force to invade the Earth sphere once again, we're left with a single question. Are you bad enough of a dude to Swiss cheese some RF Zaku's? Gundam F91 Formula Senki 0122, or Formula Wars, is a SNES title from July 1991, meant to bridge the single-volume manga Gundam F90 and the movie Gundam F91, which came out a few months prior to the game's release. Even to this day, it is a game that remains fairly easy to pick up and play, even having a designated English patch. To rapidly summarize the story, Mars Zeon is getting uppity again, now with fancier robots and barely disguised funding from Crossbone Vanguard. Your Berg Skred, a former Jagan pilot. I say former because right now the machine's in the hangar, completely foobar. Conveniently, the hangar also has a brand new Gundam F90, and you can bet that your boy Berg is going to borrow it and get back onto the field. From there, deploy unravels over the course of 11 missions, or acts as they are called. It's a simple little space adventure that should last you a couple afternoons at most. Personally, I'd recommend emulating this one, even if you own a physical copy. Mostly for the save states in order to offset the RNG being nasty, and to make saves throughout the missions, in case you miss up. Now onto the gameplay, since that is by far both the most fun and the least intuitive aspect of this game. It's composed of exactly 2 parts: moving across the map and fighting things. The victory conditions are simple. Kill everything. If your ship dies, all of your allies die, your machine gets either wrecked or runs out of fuel, you have to start the mission again. In the map movement phase, you might want to take note of 4 things. Number 1. Your ship. You start from here and use it as pit stop for refuels, repairs, and switching between units. Number 2. You! Yes, you! This blue thing is your unit. You can select it via the A button and move it using the D-pad. Then tap A again to finalize the move. Additionally, the B button can be used to cancel the move, and the X button lets you skip a turn manually, as well as skip the cutscenes. Each time you move, everyone else does as well. Number 3. The enemies. Each and every one of these green silhouettes represents a stack of enemies that you only need to send 6 feet under. They move towards your ship and your allies, as well as yourself, engaging all 3 in combat. Using the D-pad to move your cursor over them, and tapping A pulls up information about the enemy stack, as well as its approximated HP values. Lastly, number 4. Allies, friends, buddies, your fellow Jagan and heavy gun troops. Their main purpose is to serve as a stopgap as you fight other enemies. They can deal damage and sometimes even destroy enemy troops, so it's in your best interest to keep at least some of them alive. You'll be starting off with the Gundam F90A and the D-types, which will eventually get more weapons and better performance the more you use them. Of course, you will get the V-type and the F91 later, with the P-type making a brief appearance in one of the cutscenes. Of course, each level and stops at your ship will start off with this screen. You can use the D-pad to navigate between available units, select them using the A button, go back using B, and sorties are confirmed via the Start button. It's a simple menu, so you probably won't stay here for too long, but it's fairly handy for looking up optimal ranges for all the weapons the current unit has. Once you run into the enemy, or the enemy runs into you, combat begins. Things do slowly happen in the background, so ideally you should try and take out the enemies sooner rather than later. There's a bunch of stuff to keep track of in the UI, so I'll go over them real quick. The red thing on the left is your fuel. It drains over time. If it goes down to 0, you die. On the opposite side, there's your health bar. It goes down when you get beat up or shot at. And as you could have guessed, if it hits 0, you die. The top monitor is where you can look at the fancy sprite of your machine, as well as the combat animations for both you and your enemies. The bottom left monitor is where you find both your unit stats and where you'll find the weapon select screen. Bottom right monitor is what you'll use for targeting enemies. Once a lock-on is acquired, it will display enemy health. As the combat starts, use the D-pad to force the small flashing blips into the cone on your bottom right monitor. The best way to get used to the controls is to imagine the monitor as a wooden board and the blips as models. If a blip goes past the edge on one side, it will emerge on another. So if the enemy is moving in the opposite direction to where you wanted to go, move in the direction they're going to force them to overshoot. Anytime you have enemies in your targeting cone, tap A to acquire a lock-on, then tap A again to confirm. You can and should try to get multiple enemies within the lock-on cone at the same time. From there, you can select weapons to attack with. You do not need to rush through the process, the only hectic part is getting the initial lock-on. By the way, you can disengage a lock-on by tapping B. But anyways, Depending on what segment of the targeting cone the enemy is in, you will be engaging it at either close, medium, or long range. Even in the attack UI, the size of the enemy will give their engagement range away. You should now use up and down on the D-pad to select a weapon, use A to confirm or B to cancel. The rule of thumb is you use Vulcans, hand grenades and beam sabers up close, rifles, gatlings and machine cannons at medium range, and you save the beam bazookas, cannons, BSBRs and rockets for the long range. I mentioned it earlier, but you can look all that up in the unit select screen. Certain weapons do have ammo limitations, but the lower screen will let you know if that is indeed the case. So you select the weapon and hopefully you hit your targets. If not, you can immediately tap A again to lock on once more, since the enemies you failed to hit won't disappear from your lock-on area after an attack is made. Any enemies that are actively on the bottom right monitor will also periodically perform their own attacks, which are also beholden to the RNG. Fortunately, your stats will increase the more you play, so don't be discouraged if you miss too frequently. That's it, have fun! The only things I'd add is that the V-Type and the F91 are pretty much your best options come late game, and it's a bit of a bummer that there's no playable Gundam F90 ADS type like in the F90 manga. And if there's one enemy you'll grow to hate for its bullet-spongy nature, it's the Burgadalis. But yeah, that was it for the general introduction to Gundam F91 Formula Senki for the Super Famicom. It has its flaws, but is fun enough for what it is, and hopefully I did a decent job explaining the way stuff in the game works. Feel free to like and subscribe, and perhaps even subsidize my efforts. And until next time, this has been the Sure Lad, signing out.